So another thing
Yeah,
from SmackDown
fuck
was
yeah.
the past couple weeks really has been the intense progression of Jacob Fatu, going from a guy that said nothing to the guy that only said I love you Solo,
Yo,
to now cutting promos almost rivaling, or you could even say doing
better,
better than Roman
better.
Reigns.
Oh, I was gonna say Solo.
Well, I'm not going to do that because that's just shitting on Solo for no reason.
Progression.
Roman does not deliver solid promos all the time. I don't care what anyone says. Okay,
It's different character. I'm sorry, it's different.
we're talking tribal. Stop. Okay,
No, it's
whatever.
different.
Stop. Okay,
You're not
stop.
wrong, but you're not right.
I'm not okay. Whatever. Anyway, they're clearly trying to go in a new direction here. We're seeing obviously Tonga Loa is injured, so he is not around. So Tama Tonga
My
and
trouble
Jacob
shoot.
Fatu have become the new buddies, leaving Solo out. And that led to Solo walking out on them last week. And I don't know that we're really going to be seeing anything, about like they're not going to be fighting for the Ula Fala. Obviously, that was settled with Roman and Solo. But it does look like Jacob Fatu is trying to like take control of his life and take control of his career in WWE, and he no longer wants to necessarily be answering to Solo, and Tama is along with him, which I'm obsessed with because yeah. And I'm so into this. Like, I feel kind of bad for Solo, obviously, because I'm gonna have a soft spot for Solo. But
You are. That was your
um,
troubleshoot.
yeah, someone said I was a Solo stan. I'm like, I'm not a stan of Solo, okay, but I do love Solo. Um, I am curious to see where this goes because it does feel like he's trying to establish himself as a leader somewhat. I mean, the group is small, obviously, it's just the three of them now. But I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with this. Like, is he going to feud with Roman? Is he going to go elsewhere? Because I mean, he's just like kicking ass and taking names right now, you know? Um, but I'm curious because again, you would assume that they're gonna want Jacob Fatu at Mania, but it's like, what are we gonna do to get there, and who's he gonna be fighting with?
There's so many different people that I would like to see him go up against at WrestleMania, but the problem is that he is stuck currently in that bloodline vortex. However, it seems that that's kind of disintegrating,
I
and we're
think we're
just
gonna have to
getting.
see a match between like Solo and Jacob for that to be like officially over.
But that's what I like. It comes to mind because of the presentation we saw uh, from Tama and Jacob that it seems that they're just in the bloodline, but they're just their own person.
Yeah.
Which I hope they go in that direction because companies outside of WWE, it is one thing they do very well
Mhm.
is that just because gr- you have a group of people together, they have an identity within that group or
Mhm.
outside of that group. I mean,
Mhm. Well, and I think that could I mean I think if they want to keep the bloodline thing going, like it doesn't have to be what we've been seeing. It could be this is like the evolution of the bloodline where it's like it's always there and they're always going to have each other's back, but it's not like they're answering to one person anymore. You know, and there's
yeah,
going to be some sort of turmoil anyway because Solo lost the Ulafala. So there's an argument from
and
Jacob and Tama that we don't have to answer to you, brother.
that
Like
motherfucker didn't even speak.
it's like, yeah,
I
they
don't
don't
give
have
a
to do
fuck.
anything. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, if they're gonna end it, which I don't hate ending it because it kind of feels like Roman winning it back somewhat ended it, but obviously it doesn't because Solo is still doing whatever and he brought in the Tongans. So like that is a whole separate part of the bloodline. So something has to happen to cap that off. And I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm interested to see what it is. And I hope that they do it well. That's the thing. Is like anything with the bloodline that didn't have Roman directly involved wasn't always the best. So I don't have high hopes, but I do feel like if we're not going to uh continue with this storyline that has been dominating WWE for the past 5 years, it feels like, okay, well, do it justice by like ending it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Exactly.
Um anyway,
I
okay.
like
And then
this.
oh, sorry. Go ahead. What?
I like this idea. I'm a big fan of that.
I mean, that's possible. I almost prefer that direction. Like you could, if you can't get Rock versus Roman at Mania, get Jacob Fatu versus Roman. People will want to see that. You know what I
That would
mean?
be such an interesting match. That's two very different styles, but
And Jacob
still
is so
like
much better, so much better. I just saw that man doing flips against Penta, okay? And that man had 50
oh
pounds more on how big
yeah,
he is now.
wasn't that when Penta did do a little stint in MLW? Wasn't that was it in MLW or TNA?
I think it was, I don't know. It looked like it might have been an indie show. I don't know, but I quickly saw it. I wasn't like looking it up. I was just like, "Oh, wait, what?" And I
That's
saw
what I'm
him doing
saying.
like
Like,
flips and shit, and I was like,
yeah,
"What
if
is
you
happening?"
haven't, that's the thing about the WWE fandom or fans, I mean, that are so into WWE that when you have these guys like Jacob Fatu and Penta come in, you just see them do WWE stuff, which is completely different than the shit that they're doing on the indies, which
Mhm.
is way more insane.
Well, but I also think that it's like um it's like it's an old school thing too where heels are not allowed to do like everything that they are capable of doing in the ring because part of their biggest job is to put their opponent over, and so they can't
Mhm,
outshine them. So that's part of why I feel like if you look at like a Jacob Fatu or whatever, like we've seen some crazy stuff from him, but a lot of it was like showy spot, you know what I mean, where he's like jumping from this to that. It's not like, oh, that's just what he does in a match, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And I think part of that is like, yeah, because they don't want him to up show his opponent. So
Oh,
I'm
no,
kind
they
of
can't.
excited for when maybe that's not always a thing, because I don't think it should necessarily always matter. I think it depends on the story. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that Jacob Fatu is going to make somebody look bad because, like, oh, he can do all this stuff in the ring and whoever he's against can't. Like, okay, well, I'm sure that guy can do stuff that Jacob can't, you know? It's like you understand it, but I think there's a time and place for it.